In this video, we will discuss alternative forms of if P then Q. Here are some common translations of if P then Q. The conditional can be translated in any of the following ways, none of which depend on the truth of if P then Q. We've got if P then Q, our standard way of translating it. But we can drop the then and just say if P, Q. We can also say P implies Q. I've used that one a fair amount. Or P only if Q. This means that Q is necessary for P. If Q isn't there, then P is not. P is sufficient for Q, which means that Q can happen if P is there. Q is necessary for P. Q must happen if P is there. All P are Q. This is usually used with statements about nouns, like all lions are cats. That's one I used a lot when I was teaching at Iowa State. And finally, Q if P, just a nice simplified way of saying it. So for example, we have the statement, if you live in Alamogordo, you live in New Mexico. Pretty standard conditional. But we could also say, if you live in New Mexico, if you live in Alamogordo, which is true. If you live in Alamogordo is in New Mexico. So if you live in Alamogordo, you live in New Mexico. You live in New Mexico if you live in Alamogordo. You live in Alamogordo only if you live in New Mexico. Living in New Mexico is necessary for living in Alamogordo. This isn't a common way of saying it, but it's saying the same sort of thing. Living in Alamogordo is sufficient for living in New Mexico. All residents of Alamogordo are residents of New Mexico. That is that all P then Q form. And being a resident of Alamogordo implies residence in New Mexico. As an example, we've got some statements in forms other than if P then Q, and we will rewrite them as statements in the form if P then Q. So first, you'll starve if you don't eat. This is a pretty easy one. If you don't eat, then you'll starve. Go to the doctor only if your temperature exceeds 101 degrees Fahrenheit. This is kind of a command, but we can interpret it as a conditional. If you go to the doctor, then your temperature exceeds 101 degrees Fahrenheit. Not a true statement, but still it works with the command that we got before. Everyone at the game had a great time. We can draw from this, if you were at the game, then you had a great time.